in the 6 months following the Arkwright Wind project, we've had a major increase in referrals of patients with idiopathic vestibular issues, syncope, migraines, seizures, and strokes.
Comments shall be directed to the town board. There shall be no crosstalk with other members of the audience or applicant. This is not a question and answer session. It is an opportunity to provide your comments to the town board as part of the review process. Please be respectful of each other and refrain from interruptions. Each speaker will have a total of 3 minutes to speak. Time will be cut. Who would like to speak first?
I have a question. You said that the questions should be directed to the town board.
We're here.
Where are they? I'd like to see the town board. I don't know where they are. They should be lined up up front.
Tour back there, not there.
Excuse me, this is not a public comment period or Q&A to the board members. You have an opportunity to provide your comments. The public hearing has been opened by the town board. If anybody would like to speak, come up to the podium and you'll have 3 minutes.
Are you a mediator?
I'm the town's special counsel, and the deputy supervisor just laid out the process, so that's what's going to be followed. So, Yvonne.
SDEIS, Supplemental Draft Environmental Impact Statement, you will encounter the phrase, not expected to change, many, many times. Such an easy shortcut than doing a real study. So obviously, this is how RES completes the studies it was ordered to perform. By simply adding the additional 100 feet of these turbines is not expected to change anything. 100 feet taller will most definitely change everything in our lives. This project started in 2006 with turbines at 420 feet tall. Through the years, the town board amends the law 3 times to increase turbine height, 420 to 495 to 599, and still does not amend the town wind law to increase the setback from residents. This height of turbine is unheard of and unstudied and should not be allowed in communities. We are the experiment. Our town board has allowed this to happen with no concern to the population that lives and pays taxes here. Listen to the horror stories from our neighbors in Arkwright. This town board is willing to allow much taller and larger turbines with much larger bases and incredibly longer blades to remain at the same setback for a 420-foot turbine, 1,000 feet from the corner of a home or your home. Why was a setback distance of 1,000 feet from homes originally established? How was this setback determined? It had to be based on the size of the turbines at that time in 2006. Was it for safe protection? And now our safety and health is barely addressed. The town has increased setbacks from public roads and property lines, but no increase from the homes. So if the 600-foot turbine falls, they're only concerned with it landing in a public road. They managed to increase the off-site property line setback to a whopping 25-foot increase. These turbines will be 100 feet taller. Here's an example of this increase of 100 feet. The average 60 to 66 passenger full-size school bus is approximately 35 feet. 3 full-size school buses end to end at the very tip of the turbine blade of a 495-foot turbine set at its most point at noon would be a total of 600 feet tall. I have an additional thing from a friend that asked me to read. The location of the Hanover turbines, T38, 35, 34, 33, and 32, is a strong migratory bird flyway. This area is known to have owls, green and blue herons, and other species of birds living in the project area that were not observed during the brief 2016 bird survey. The breeding survey was limited in scope. Oh, we'll pass this on.
Here, right up, please. Next person, please, come up. Up here, name and address.
Hello, my name is Mark Twitchell. I have a residential property in the adjacent township of Dayton, and also I live in the town of Pomfret. My comments are directed toward the town of Villanova, which has drafted an SEIS without the citizen input of a planning board. Deficiencies and omissions in the document are reflections of the interests of those town board members with financial interests in the project. The SEIS makes no mention of the fact that the proposed larger machines have larger blades. On page 11, the proposed turbines are described as having an increased area of rotor sweep equivalent to the addition of 5 additional previously approved turbines. Yet we are assured that no additional birds or bats will be killed as a result of this addition. The SEIS makes no mention of the additional infrasound created by larger blades, yet we know that larger wind turbine blades create more low frequency and more infrasound. The SEIS makes no mention of the additional impact of Doppler weather radar as a result of taller machines with larger blades. The SEIS is not clear on whether the larger machines will require deeper concrete foundations, resulting in greater impact on aquifers. The SEIS is unable to consider all the possible impacts of the proposed larger turbines, since nowhere are such machines placed so close to so many people. Citizens in the town of Villanova do not deserve to be regarded as experimental subjects. Thank you.
Next. Please give your name and address.
My name is Evan Davis. I live on Bartlett Hill, 886. I'm a registered nurse in Chautauqua County. I have a bachelor's in nursing science. I see patients throughout this whole county. I don't have any hard evidence, but I can definitely tell you that in the 6 months following the Arkwright Wind project, we've had a major increase in referrals of patients with idiopathic vestibular issues, syncope, migraines, seizures, and strokes. Has anyone done any surveys on the long-term effects of these wind turbines on humans, let alone the animals? Have they done surveys on what the effects of increasing the heights of these turbines is going to have on our family and loved ones? This is just a gross injustice to our rights as citizens and tax-paying members of this community. I propose that this is just ludicrous. How can a board of members make a decision that's going to have long-term impacts on our family? I'm expecting my first child in October. We were told nothing about this wind project. We purchased this home last April. It was never disclosed to us that this was going to be a project. Not the realtor, no one. We found out secondhand about this. The proposed road is 30 feet from my drinking water. Is the town going to fix that if something happens? Am I going to have to foot a bill for a lawyer to save my family? This is wrong.
Anyone else like to speak? Come up. Give us your name and address, please.
It's Joanie Wiggles, town of Charlotte. I'm not going to repeat a lot of, I agree with what was spoken already. The supplemental DEIS is basically just a repeat of the previous and outdated SEIS and FEIS. As skilled masters of deception, RES purposely devoted all the updated evaluations and reports towards the 5 miles of underground transmission, the underground Genti, avoiding attention to many critical areas likely to cause the greatest concerns and complaints. The SDIS repeatedly makes numerous blanket statements claiming no increased impacts without supplying any supportive data or independent reports. Studies for the 100-foot taller turbines with more powerful, longer blades, larger rotor sweep. The setbacks of 1,000 feet from off-site residents and 50 dBA noise limits is an absolute violation of citizens' basic rights to dwell safely and peacefully in the sanctity of their homes. Currently, the Hancock Wind Project in Maine has the tallest operating turbines in the United States at 574 feet. Their closest receptor is 3,552 feet away, which is over 3 times the setbacks proposed for this project. Very troubling and extremely negligent is the lack of studies for evaluation of infrasound, low-frequency noise, vibration, wind shear, and amplitude modulation. As the developer is well aware, these unique aspects of wind turbine noise produce the most disturbance and complaints. Pedersen and Mahler, well-respected acousticians, have studied and found conclusively that these larger, more powerful turbines, like the Vestas 136 3.45 megawatt, produce more low-frequency noise, which is the greatest source of community complaints. It's no wonder RES wants to avoid measuring this and chose to only measure broadband dBA noise levels in their cursory and inadequate noise study. The World Health Organization 2018 just came out with their findings to keep turbine noise specifically under 45 decibels to avoid adverse health effects. The Brown County Board of Health of Wisconsin declared the Shirley Wind Project a public health human hazard. The Madison County Board of Health, Iowa, acknowledges adverse health effects from improperly sited wind projects and recommends at least 1.5 mile setbacks to avoid adverse health effects. The updated shadow flicker modeling estimates an increase of 11.6%. 28 receptors will receive over 40 hours of flicker. If you've never seen what that looks like, I challenge anybody on this board to sit through half an hour of flicker. You would never want that put onto your neighbor. It's terrible. Avian studies regarding birds and bats have not even been updated since 2016. And the Eagle studies grossly incomplete.
Thank you. Anybody else? Your name and address, please.
My name is Susan Baldwin, and I live right across the road here, 1141 Route 83. I've had the unfortunate experience of calling 911 3 times in the last 3 months. 911, we trust that number. Always supposed to work. 3 times, it didn't work. I lost the call. I told you guys about that one. There was an accident right out here. I'm reporting the accident. I'm going, there, she's in the road, the battery's in the road, car parts are in the road, cop's gone. Drop the call. Back again. She's in the road. No, she doesn't need the hospital. It was ridiculous. They finally showed up 40 minutes later. Fortunately, the woman was not bleeding to death. But it's a very concerning thing. I asked Officer Spinoza, when I had the pleasantries with him, how does that work? And he said, oh, we get the calls dropped all the time. It's the cell service. So yesterday I went to Verizon, and she said, we had an in-service with the turbine people 2 years ago, and they said they're going to put the turbines directly away, positioning for your house to not get missed calls and dropped calls and static and all this other stuff. I had a call tonight dropped. They're constant. It takes me 3 calls to talk to my daughter for 1 minute. Just 1 minute. Anywhere. That's not even 911. That's just social. I can't be social anymore because those things don't directly hide. And then I got this map because I live here. And the Cassadaga wind is coming here. Anyone is welcome to see this. I'm going to submit it to the Chautauqua County Planning Board because you can't read it at all. I asked our town board members to look at it 3 days before the construction was supposed to start. Please look, please look, please look. I'm not interested, she said. 5 days later, I get this summons in the mail. I have disrupted the meeting.
Time.
Time.
Anybody else? Give them your name and address, thank you.
Name is John Dudley, last name's Robinson. Live at 9200 Round Top Road. We moved there some years ago, about 1999. We bought into the area for the scenic, the rural aspect of it. Sat on the porch, they enjoyed the scenic view and the quietness so much. I stayed so long that the previous owner said, I think I'm going to give you some more off on this property. You know, I wasn't asking, but I think she felt like I was just sitting there hedging, you know. But anyhow, my wife is not able to be here, and she composed a letter, and she and I are in agreement. So I told her I would read this for her. To whom it may concern, particularly to the board, the rest of you. What kind of town board pushes through a project that will have a devastating impact on its residents and negatively impact the ecology, the environment of the town of Villanova, and its neighbors for decades? The town board of Villanova has fallen prey to a company that has no regards for residents or the environment. This wind company is trying to push through this project as quickly as possible in order to get their government funding, our taxpayer dollars. Without this government money, this project would not be viable. My home will be surrounded by these giant industrial turbines, the closest being roughly 1,500 feet away from my house. We have a colony of 50 plus brown bats right now in one area, and another smaller colony. She says, when I see these bats fly out at dusk, I'm so thankful. Farmers should be thankful too, by the way. But I fear for their demise if these turbines are built so close. I've also seen adult and immature bald eagles in the area on the property on a regular basis. And last week I spotted a golden eagle passing through. More studies need to be done on the negative impacts to the eagles and the bats. Just saying it's no change, that doesn't get it. Bats are important to the agriculture. Listen up, farmers. We need the bats. And the populations have already been devastated by white nose syndrome. I want to add to that a couple other issues that really, I have really strong feelings about too, is the flicker that was mentioned earlier and the infrasound. That's the sound you can't hear, but it's affecting your inner mechanism. It can affect your heart and increase the stiffness of the outer layer of your heart, can even affect the spine. But anyhow, here in Iowa, Madison County Board of Public Health, that's not the town board, that's not the planning board, which we only had 2 people on recently. Now we have none, no planning board being abolished. But the Madison County Board of Public Health has gone on record to say that there are legitimate negative health effects caused by wind turbines. Board Chair Dr. Kevin DeRegner said the board identified 2 concerns of review of scientific literature and months of hearing, the flicker and the infrasound. They should be 1.5 miles away.
Anybody else? Anybody else would like to speak? well.
Where is the Eagle Management Plan listed? You have my name, Judi Phillips, Forestville, New York. Where is the Eagle Management Plan listed? The developer hired a company called Ecology and Environment out of Lancaster, New York to do the Eagle surveys for the Ball Hill Wind Project. They state in section 1.3 their surveys were based on federal guidelines followed in the Fish and Wildlife Service Eagle Conservation Guidance Plan. That's a mouthful. I've read all 110 pages of it. There are 4 stages in this guidance plan, and they're clearly spelled out. The company that did the Eagle surveys here did not complete these stages. They did stages 1 and 2. So they did the surveys, they saw the eagles, they counted the nests, and they gave the impression that they are following the established protocols for assessing impacts on eagles. However, E&E prematurely concluded in the report that the project would not significantly impact local or migrating eagles. The problem with that statement is in stage 3, which they didn't do, it was not included, and that is where they give the actual assessment of eagle mortality from plugging in the results of the surveys into the United States Fish and Wildlife Service's wind turbine collision models. This is also usually done in conjunction with projects that apply for a federal interim take permit. So I'm asking, is a developer applying for a federal bald eagle incidental take permit? And where is the Eagle Management Plan? I could not find it that they made reference to. The planning board, the town board, and the Fish and Wildlife Service should require the developer to complete the protocol in the federal guidelines showing the phase of analysis after count survey to estimate eagle mortality. Since the developer quoted and used this company to quote federal guidelines, they should not be allowed to terminate the process before final results are determined. How much time do I have?
15 seconds.
Thank you. From the Audubon Spring Magazine, it says here, these guidelines are voluntary, but the companies that make good faith effort to follow these guidelines will be treated more favorably than ones that blew right past them. Thank you.
She's next.
My name is Julie Delcamp. I live at 1040. Julie Delcamp. I live at 1040 Smith Road. I'm a registered nurse, and I'm also the mother of 6 beautiful children. I'm, of course, a Villanova resident. And after seeing the mass destruction in our great many of our local residents have a new opinion on the turbines. We just don't want them. I have lived in Villanova over 10 years, and I'm a lifelong resident of the Pine Valley School District. Now, having 2 properties in the town of Villanova, which have taxes to be paid, I should be able to come to a public board meeting and be able to speak. I was at that town board meeting on August 14th, 2019, a meeting in which that agenda had privilege of the floor listed, but the board refused that privilege to anyone at that meeting. The town board approved multiple laws, several having to do with the turbines or construction of in both Ball Hill and Cassadaga wind projects. Laws were passed to avoid that Article 78 lawsuit against the town of Villanova, where the town was required to re-review the project with the planning board before that construction of the 600-foot turbines. At that meeting, the town board added laws which will accommodate for the erection of the 600-foot unhealthy and unsightly turbines. Laws were passed that completely disregarded the public health as well as the public disapproval of the turbine project. Villenova's own town supervisor, Richard Ardillo, was not at that August 14th, 2019 meeting. I witnessed a partial council of town board members making all these decisions which are being pushed through by Villenova's lawyer to please these out-of-town predators. One of the chief predators, Mark Lyons, sat to my left at that meeting. These predators who will deforest our land and erect hideous, unhealthy garbage that is not even green. These greedy predators who have went town to town convincing residents they are doing good for the community. Residents that are being presented with this beautiful picture of how green and wonderful turbines are. Many promises were made to those landowners to get them to go green with turbines, giving up now 50 years of land rights. These predators are causing havoc. They're deforesting our lands, and that has already happened in Arkwright. It will now happen in Cherry Creek and Cassadaga. Then it will happen in Villanova and Hanover. They are rapidly bulldozing the project, erecting dozens of turbines in a few months, which is a cause for concern. They are as tall as skyscrapers, and they are being assembled by out-of-town, underpaid turbine workers who could care less about us. There was no listening to the several residents at the Villanova meeting on August 14th, 2019. Isn't that the job of the town board, to listen to the voters, the taxpayers, the community? Why am I being silenced? After a meeting like that, it would appear to me that the town board is doing everything in favor of the turbine predators and nothing for its community, as if they have some personal gain in the project. Cell phone, TV, radio service has become inadequate in the past year. Many of my radio stations have more static. Drop calls are certainly the norm. The turbine companies do blame that signal strength on the cell phones or radio stations.
Thank you.
Hi, will do. Hi, my name is Julie Orton, and currently I live in Mayville. I've lived several places, but the one constant I've had in Chautauqua County has been our place at 8919 Round Top Road. I wasn't going to talk, but I'm sitting here remembering 10 years ago I came to town board. I think you were on the town board. I wanted to lay pipeline in a ditch. I represented gas well company. The gas wells pay taxes. I needed to connect a system. This was my livelihood. This was actually how I found the property 35 years ago. The town board unanimously turned me down to put pipe in a ditch. And here we are with windmills coming in. What's the difference? I guess I didn't have enough money to make it personally worthwhile. I did offer money, of course. I guess it wasn't lucrative. The wells paid taxes. No one was going to see that pipe. We had to do a drawing. We have to go to the DEC to install this. And now, 10 years later, the board is all for these windmills. Documented the health problems, documented the ecological and psychological problems. And this is all okay. This is, everybody's for it. I don't know what has happened to this board, and I don't know what the people that lived here and the people I met farming that are no longer here would think about what's going on. That's it. Thank you.
Anybody else?
My name's Patricia Ryan. I live at 15 Hill Drive, Forestville, at Eastman Lake. I've had a residence there for 36 years. We bought the residence because of the quiet, the wildlife, the serenity, just the plain beauty of getting away from everything and enjoying that beautiful site. I am heartbroken by what's going on. I'm shocked. I don't understand why we would want to take something like this and ruin the pristine look of what wildlife is used to and the sites that we would look at. I'm going to look out my backyard and see this thing 600 feet in my backyard. And it's really upsetting because I like to sit in my backyard. And now I don't have that option of just looking at the beauty of my trees and the birds and eagles and anything else that's flying by. I'm a huge nature buff. I grew up in the country, not here, but that's why I bought a place in Villanova, because it's beautiful here. So just my personal opinion, it isn't really healthy. I'm a nurse also by trade. I've been a nurse for 25 years, and the physical impact scares me. It is a huge concern to me. The inner ear problems that people have, the seizures that were mentioned, the headaches, not being able to sleep at night, which is why I come out here, because it's nice and quiet. So all of these things are concerns that have been brought up today. I'm not going to go too much further on this. I just want to state that it is a huge concern that we are doing this to our community. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yes.
Sure. What's your name and address?
Okay. My name is Matt Aldinger, 9592 Round Top Road, Forestville. How is everybody doing here? A lot of people here are apparently opposed to it, and I know there's a lot of people that are for it. A lot of people that are for it could be working or not here, but nobody seems to be speaking about it that are for the project. I personally am for the project. A lot of points came up that I wanted to answer as they came up, so I'll try to remember a few. Last person said, my backyard, I don't want to see it there. Do you own the property that the turbine is on? No, so it's not technically your backyard. That'd be like me looking across your yard and saying, well, that's mine too. You know, and if you cut a tree down that yard, well, that was my favorite tree, you shouldn't have done that. So the people that are for it have property here too, so it's our property that's being affected directly, not yours. As far as the birds go, I haven't seen piles of dead birds under the ones in Arkwright. I don't see anybody producing piles of dead birds from these things. Cars hit birds, the thruway makes noise, trains make noise, people aren't passing away from that. Out in Bliss, the turbines have been there for what, 20 years? I have not heard of mass droves of people with illnesses out there, just pouring out, okay? I mean, as far as the guy who was a registered nurse from around here that just moved in to get him in, you know, he says there's more increase of health risk, but with no facts to back it up, and he feels that this is caused by the turbines. Trying to think what else I can say to back up what you guys were saying here. But I mean, I sleep better at night because my taxes are going to go down. I'll sleep better at night, personally, with the wind turbines there, because the reason there's no farmers here that you guys claim will be upset is because we can't afford to keep the land. You know, our roads are terrible. The township cannot afford to fix the roads. I mean, I'll sleep better when I'm not hitting potholes, knowing my vehicle's not falling apart. We'll have money for infrastructure. When's the last time anybody comes to Villanova wants to spend this kind of money to help? I mean, it's going to have benefits for the community, jobs too. Good things are going to come from this. You know, I don't advocate for animals to die needlessly, you know, but I mean, come on. I mean, over in Arkwright, there's not piles of dead animals under these things. I really don't have anything further to say at this point. I love all my neighbors, that's all I want to say, so I hope you don't, you know, hate me too much for what I said, but this is what it is.
Name and address.
Patricia Greenstein, 7865 Hall Road, Cassadaga, New York. In 2016, my husband and I had our home, we've been there for 32 years, we had our home appraised by a realtor. We were looking to just see, you know, as we were retiring, to figure out, you know, how much our home was worth, completely paid for. We got an estimate on our home. We put up our house on the market. We signed a contract with Howard Hanna in the fall of 2018. Because of the wind turbine project, all of the real estate agents determined that we needed to lower our price immediately by $20,000 to $30,000. So for any of you people who have not gone out and gotten your home appraised, get your home appraised before the turbines go in, get your water checked, okay? Make sure that you don't have turbidity in your well or black, you know, because ever since they put the turbine projects up in Arkwright, we're downhill for the aquifer. We've had nothing but trouble. Duffenbach's has been out. We're getting black iron and sulfury stuff in our water we never had before. So here we are, my husband and I raised our 4 kids here, worked in the community, paid our taxes all these years, paid for our house, supported local businesses, and now we may be stuck with the house that we can't even live in because I'm going to have 3 turbines on one side. 2, well, they actually took another one out, 2 over here and 3 over there. So we're definitely going to have flicker. We're most likely probably going to get infrasound, okay? You don't live here. I don't know this other gentleman who spoke where you live. Good for you that you can pay your taxes. What about my husband and I? That now that we're retired, and if I take what they want me to on my house, I can't even afford anything comparable. We fixed our house up. I've got new bathrooms. We spent the last 8 weeks, doing another project on our home because we may be stuck. We may be stuck here now. But the thing is, though, another realtor. We've gone with another realtor. The realtors around here really have their heads in the sand about the property values. Things up in Arkwright are not moving. So good for you, for the people that are making money off this, but a lot of us are getting screwed over, and it's not fair. And when you say that it's not affecting your property, there's trespass zoning. And if something is affecting my property values to the point where I can't get what my home is really worth, based on the assessment in 2016 that we've done improvements on, and they're still telling us to drop our price by $30,000, $40,000, that's not right. And for any of you who think it's okay to do this to your neighbors, you're not good neighbors.
Come up.
Hi, Doug Fairbanks, Forestville, Putnam Road, Forestville, over in Arkwright. I just want to speak to that. I'm not a resident of Villenova, so it's not my project, but as history, I was the chairman of the planning board when Arkwright's project went in. So when you talk about those poor people in Arkwright, I'm one of those people that wake up and look at it, got no problem with it. You guys are talking about opinions, not facts, maybes, not facts. I wake up with it. I love it. I think it's the greatest thing. Real estate property, okay, the tax properties went up for not paying taxes. Arkwright was the only township on that list that didn't have, or wasn't on the list, because we didn't have a person losing their property. How do you explain that? Just a coincidence? You bring money into an area, you bring projects, you bring jobs, it's a good thing for the community. You guys got to stop getting hung up on these opinions and start just looking at the big picture. It's going to be 25 years. They say, it's 25 years before it gets rid of its carbon imprint. How long was the steel plant going to take before, the coal plant going to take before it got rid of its carbon imprint? The big picture is it's a good thing for everything, not just the people that have land. And just so you know, I didn't get one. I didn't get 2, I didn't get 3. I own 600 acres, and I didn't get any. I have friends that got 2 of them, and I go over to their place for picnics, and we sit there and we have a picnic and look at them. It's not. I had another, just a quick story. I stopped in a friend of mine who got 3 of them, standing in his driveway working on his disc vine, and I say, hey, are they as bad as the people are saying? It's like, because I'm not as close as he is because I didn't get them. And he says, I haven't really noticed. Every once in a while I got to shut my window and turn the air conditioner on or something if I notice it at night. He says, something's wrong with that one right there because it's been squeaking all morning. He says, I'm going to have to call the wind company. I think there's something wrong with it. And I said, wow, really? No, it's coming from your house. And he says, no, that thing's bugging me. There must be something wrong. And I said, no, I'm pretty sure it's coming from your house. He said, oh, son of a bitch, my wife's doing wash. We couldn't hear him over the washer, and that's a true story. That ain't made up, that's fact. So that's all I got to say. It's like, it's not, you hear horror stories in Arkwright. I live in Arkwright, and I was top on the line of getting our project for Arkwright, and it has done nothing but good for Arkwright. So.
Yes, I would love to speak.
Your name and address?
Karen Harvey, Mayville, New York. I'm a 4th generation Chautauqua County person, and I documented what happened in Arkwright. And presently there are 50 people who have gotten together and filed suit because of the health issues, because of the impacts on their property values. They are now filing suit in Arkwright because they have lost their cattle. Cattle raisers have lost 4 and 5 calves this spring. They're close to turbines that are causing these difficulties. The planning board in Arkwright, everyone was pushed off of it that had any concerns about the wind turbine company. Does that sound familiar to the people here in Villanova? Arkwright is not a beautiful place anymore, and the economic impacts are what we're most concerned about on our property values, on our animals' health, and our children's health. The state of New York Constitution urges and demands that town officials, local town officials, protect the health, safety, and welfare of all of its citizens. That's the mandate that's what's given to town boards. Town boards also have the home rule right. What home rule means is that a town board can protect its citizens, can write the laws that govern industrial development, that govern anything. You wouldn't put a nuclear power plant here or a pig farm without going through your town board, and this town board has a lot of power. If they sign away that power to a wind company who writes the law and hands it to them with a little cash for a few people, then the majority of the people, what has happened? They must wonder why they elected these people and how they could have squandered this right. Home rule is very unique, and by not respecting the demands, the necessity of protecting the health, safety, and welfare of the humans and the animals in their area, they have forfeited their responsibility to the community. I hope that you will all take the precautions that have been given to you here to protect your water, your children, and your property values. Thank you.
Anyone else? Hello.
Hi, how are you? Nancy Huber, 9619 Round Top Road. I'm Matt's neighbor. We're still friends. I just want to finish reading what Tina had started to read from her friend before I say a few things. The location of the Hanover turbines, T38, 35, 34, 33, 32, is a strong migratory bird flyway. This area is known to have owls, green and blue herons, and other species of birds living in the project area that were not observed during the brief 2016 bird survey. The breeding survey was limited in scope and did not reflect the fact that this particular project area hosts large numbers of migratory birds during spring and fall. Additionally, this area features older farms with barns that have had hundreds of bats living in them for decades, which are essential for insect control in the area. Suggested mitigation measures are unacceptable. Turbines with red flashing lights attract bats and will mean certain death for these sensitive populations. The updated SDEIS does not reflect current surveys that reflect impacts of 600-foot turbines on migratory populations or projected bird deaths. We actually inherited our home in 2012, and like my fellow visiting nurse, and I'm also a visiting nurse, I didn't know anything about the wind project until I got a call from a neighbor. And I was really surprised that, our board, made a point of not doing anything to help communicate information to residents of Villanova. There were very tiny little public notices in the Dunkirk Observer, which I didn't get at the time, but I do now, and I do scour those public notices. So, lesson learned. My concern is, first of all, the windmill height increase of 600 feet. I just don't understand and keeping the same setback of 1,000 feet. I just don't understand why we can't just wait a little bit longer, do some more studies on this very huge height of a windmill that is traditionally offshore. You don't see 600 feet turbines even though we're country, I still consider us residential because there's a lot of residents in these kind of areas. Offshore, you see them all the time. And I just don't understand why we can't just take a step back, do some more studies on the impact of this height increase on the residents. You know, as a nurse, I'm very concerned about the health and welfare of my neighbors, of my patients. Although there are just opinions, we need more scientific facts. I agree with you. They're just opinions. They don't really mean anything. It's just an opinion. But if we could only have more scientific facts to back this, I think, you know, it would be helpful. Excuse me?
Your time is up.
I didn't want to interrupt your thought. Anyone else would like to speak? Want to speak?
I'm Kirsten Baldwin. I live on 778 Plank Road, Cherry Creek. I'm very close to the turbines that are coming, and I refuse to sign this good neighbor agreement. I feel that all along this has been a very secretive project. I feel that this good neighbor agreement is giving up our rights. I feel like if we sign this agreement, if it's bribery, for one. If you sign within 30 days, you get a $500 bonus. You get $1,500 as long as the project's going. I will never sign this agreement. It says here how, if you do sign this agreement, it says in here that they can do whatever they want to your property. It says it right here. I will never sign something like this because it doesn't benefit our community, for one. It doesn't benefit our habitat. It doesn't benefit our health risks. There is not enough to make this any good for our community. And I don't understand why there's so many areas that they could do this where there's not a population at all. We come here to live in the country. We built our home out of scratch for 20 years. And we're still building, and now these things are coming in. And we don't know what's going to happen. And I'm afraid to even put more effort into where we live, because we might have to move. I don't know. That's just my feelings. We do, I don't know. I guess that's it.
Anyone else? No one else? If that's the case, then can I have a motion to close the public hearing from my board? Nate Palmer. Do I have a second? Keith Butcher. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Carried. Thank you for coming.
Please note, everyone, that written comments are going to be accepted by the town through the end of September. So any other comments you have, that please feel free to submit it. Anybody that has their comments in writing, please feel free to hand it to the board.